Welcome back, Keith Tebow from FRC Media, as we are continuing to speak with candidates that are on the November 3rd ballot. As we mentioned, there's a number of state and county-wide races. There are two positions open for the race for county commissioner. There are three candidates running. We're pleased to be joined by one of those candidates right now. Pleased to be joined by Republican Nancy Stanton-Cross. Nancy, thank you for joining me. How are you?
No, I'm great, Keith. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
No, my pleasure. For people who don't know a lot about Bristol County Commissioner, basically the job meets the commission meets a couple times a month or so. They're involved in making sure that county buildings are taken care of, and they also serve on the board of the Bristol County Agricultural School. Before we start asking you about what your plans are, if elected, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and why you decided to run.
Sure. I have born and raised in Fall River, Massachusetts, Bristol County. I went to Durfee High School. I'm a graduate of the class of 1982. From there, I was on an athletic scholarship. I went to Sacred Heart University in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And then after that, I attended New England School of Law at night while I worked for a small law firm in Fall River during the day so I could pay for law school. And I graduated law school and passed the bar in 1990. So I've been a practicing attorney, since 1990 and have done so in Fall River, first with a firm and as a sole proprietor of my own business for over the last 20 years. In addition to that, I am currently a member of the Westport School Committee. I have been a longstanding member of the Bristol County Bar Association as a board of the director, Fall River Bar Association. I'm involved in many other community outreach programs on behalf of the Bar Association. I have set up the conciliation program. I was, really the forefront of conciliation in Bristol County by starting a program in the district court back in the 90s before it ever became a real thing in the court system. And I organized at least 25 attorneys, great attorneys in Bristol County that want to contribute and be volunteers. And we got together and we cleared out over an 850 case docket for small claims and civil matters, really to serve the people in the community of Bristol because they weren't getting heard because, we had a lot of restraints on judicial economy. We didn't have the judges in order to move the cases. So as attorneys, I organized them and we did a nice job doing that. And from there, I also was part of the ground floor of the conciliation program that still exists today over at the Probate and Family Court in Bristol. I served on the board as well as now I am one of the conciliators. I'm certified in mediation. It's a great tool. I find it's a great tool in counties such as Bristol, where we have a lot of people that are low income and poverty, and their access to the court is restricted. So part of the template that I have done and the work that I've done in the community and part of the Bar Association is to provide some access to the courts by having these programs so that folks, it doesn't mitigate your issues because you don't have money. It just means that you don't have anybody to help you navigate the system. And so I'm very proud of all of those things that we've done to provide for people in the community. In addition to being on the Westport School Committee, I am part of the subcommittee that does all contract negotiations with our unions. I do the bus transportation contracts. I also do the budget conversations between the town and the schools. In the meantime, and we've been doing a lot lately. In the meantime, I run my own practice of law. I employ several employees. I have a building and an office in Fall River. I had as many offices as 3, but have downscaled that given other things that I'm doing, such as school committee. But I practice primarily in the area of family law. And, part of my importance, and I think I'm really grounded in, is to serve the people of the community, but to also look at the youth that we're bringing up into the community, providing them with opportunities and engagement and bringing them back to Bristol County to work and to live, which makes us all a stronger community. And that really starts with the schools. And that was why that was such a big interest for me to be on the school committee. And through that endeavor, I've handled a multitude of things. I've
Mm.
managed real estate trusts and really in the private sector. That's what I've done. I've built myself up from having, nothing but a law degree to being very successful. And I'm appreciative to the community here in Bristol that has really provided me with that resource so that I could flourish. And I just
Yeah.
hope that I can, inspire others.
So, what interested you about being a Bristol County Commissioner?
Well, I think one of the first reasons I thought about it was dealing with the school budgets and when they were doing the building proposal for the Aggie
Mm.
school. And
Yeah.
there was, some scuttlebutt about, people not knowing and notice. And because I was on the budget committee at that time, we had to look at an increase for our students going over to Aggie as a result of that build project. Now, fully support the build project, but I think that what I heard a lot from being in Westport and in Fall River, people were upset because they felt that they didn't have participation in the process. And I know what we went through in Westport to get that school build up. And there was 2 years of dialogue with the public. And I really think that a lot of those discussions and those opportunities for input really gave us a good framework. But I think that, I think the communication aspect of knowing about it and knowing what was happening could have been better. And that's not to fault anybody. It's just there are areas of improvement. And the fact that as a county government, people felt that they didn't have the information. To me, that was like, well, why do we have that? And then when I looked further into it, I realized that Bristol County commissioners have been around for 350 years. And out of those 350 years, there has only been one woman that has served on that board. And I would only be the second one if I was elected. So she served, Maria Lopes, she served for 24 years. She had a long period of time, but that's only 7% of the time of county government that has not had any diversity on that board. And I think it's essential in a leadership role for, the youth, and for diversity. I think it's very important that we have a different perspective on that board. And that's why I felt that I could bring a different perspective and expand on that perspective with new thoughts and new ideas coming from where I have in the private sector with, delving into the public sector as an elected official.
When it comes to a lot of the elected offices in Bristol County, they're on the ballot every 2 years or every 4 years, but a lot of voters really don't know what goes into it. Is part of your intention to bring more light? And I'm not saying that things haven't been transparent with the commission, but just as you said before, bringing more influence and more notoriety so people can understand what's happening in county government.
I think, we've done it over in Westport. And when I decided to run, I did reflect back on and actually went back to my first interview when I was running for school committee. And I said, I really want to work on grants. I want to work on communication and collaboration with the community so they know what's going on inside the building. And I wanted to work for adult education. And, I look back on my record and we have, we continue to get grants, which I think is a very important part. With respect to adult education, we had that up and running last year. So, the things that we were looking to do and the communication with the community is, constantly on social media and engaging with them, allowing them to have an insight. And I do think that that is for the forefront, what I would like to see if I'm elected as Bristol County Commissioner. And I hate the word transparency because it seems to say that, there's things hidden. I just think that the way that the message is being delivered isn't delivered as well as it should be. We're in a modern area of technology. I find that their website is, it's antiquated. It's not user friendly. People should be able to pull up budgets. They should be able to pull up the supporting documents on agendas. I'd like to see, and I do think part of engagement is when you have a meeting that it's not an audio meeting and you actually see the people that you've elected working in government for you. I think that that's an important connection to have with people that ultimately pay the taxes that allow you to serve. And I think that they need to know where their tax dollars go, and they need to understand that they're being spent in the right place in a fiscally responsible way. So that piece of it is very, very important to me, to make that engagement with the community. I found it beneficial in Westport. It's always a work in progress because nothing's perfect. But I definitely, if elected, would bring that to Bristol County. I would work, tirelessly to get videoed meetings, to make sure the documentations and the budgets are up there so people can see what they're paying for. People, if you show them what they're paying for and what they're getting in return, will have that. They feel better, and they should. And me as a taxpayer, I feel better when I see what I'm getting. So that would be
Yeah.
really, really important for me to do. I'm sorry. Secondly,
yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important that we look at what we're doing. So they're the landlords of, county buildings, courthouses that haven't been built newly by the state. And so there are several pieces of property, and the one in Attleboro, there's the 3 in New Bedford, and maintaining those buildings, and some of them built in the 1800s, 1900s, that's a struggle. I mean, think about when you go buy a house and you're buying a house that was, built in 1925, what the kind of work that's going to be required to update the electrical, to make that everything where it needs to be so that you can pull a permit so people can occupy that building. So all that cost revenue has to be looked at. And so that piece of it with these aging buildings and the money being spent to support those buildings, and those buildings need to bring a return to the community. And whether that return is, and right now I feel is an optimal time, and this is the perspective that I bring, something different. I know where we're at now is we're looking for early childhood space because of COVID. So we have to have all of this separation and social distancing. Some of these buildings have square footage that is very large. So it could be very impactful on the community and some of these schools or childcare programs to be able to come into these buildings and just have some space in order to get some kids face to face. And that's a big problem right now. And remote is really not an optimal model for our kids to have for an extended period of time. So that would be another issue that I would be looking into, that I think that would be very helpful with these aging buildings to turn around and do something with.
You mentioned your role on the Westport School Committee. Obviously, the commissioners are part, as I mentioned, of the Bristol Aggie board.
Mm-hmm.
You did
Yes.
touch a little bit about Aggie, but what role would you see being played on that board if elected?
Oh, I was saving the best for last. So the Aggie school excites me. The Aggie school is not marketed and exposed to the community on what it does and the fantastic things that these kids are exposed to in that system. And that school needs to be put more on the map for what they do and the potential that it can give kids. And that's another reason why I am very much desirous of this position, is because that Aggie school is one of the 3 agricultural schools in the state of Massachusetts. What they do over there in their large breed science and the dairy farm and floriculture and landscaping and design has really been the forefront of a lot of kids that are interested in that to develop their own businesses. And I think it's important to have, a mother, a parent, somebody on that board of trustees that relates in a commissioner way, in a commissioner standing to some of these kids and be a role model. There's a lot of females now that are getting into businesses that were traditionally male before, and they face the same obstacles, just different ones than I faced. I might have faced, different ones that have been cleared, but they still continue to face, impasses in going into some, customarily male oriented type of work. And now they're entering into these workplaces, and they need to know that they can succeed and do as well as their male counterparts. And the Aggie school is the feeder system for this. So I think that it's very important. But more importantly, again, the new perspective, the segue of having diversity on the board. I'm not just thinking of the Aggie school to continue to do what the Aggie school does. We've just is spending over $104 million on a rehab, which is much needed, but we need to deliver back to the community in Bristol, the cities and towns that support it, the children that attend that school. We need to obviously increase enrollment, but we need to then give back to the community from those very students that are learning so many great things. So, now that we're in the era of COVID, I was just talking to another committee member in Westport, and I said, geez, wouldn't it be great? The Aggie school has the dairy thing. They do the co-op. Wouldn't it be great if we could then come up with some type of co-op for the Aggie students to, help adults that are, like, say you live in Fall River and you can't have a farm, but you can have a patio garden. And perhaps they could offer designs and things that someone could do on their back porch to grow tomatoes and maybe cucumbers, and come up with like a trellis idea, because you don't need the wide fields to grow in. Because if anything we realized is there was a shortage in things that we needed. There was a shortage in beef. There was a shortage and in supplies, and there was a shortage with fresh produce. And so I think it's very important that we have this gem sitting in Dayton that could be a feeder system to branch out into cities and towns and offer communities that don't even have kids in the school but pay taxes, provide them with some education on how to set up their own garden or how to keep insects down. We could have these, I find in Westport, when our kids give back to like the Council on Aging, and whether it's making a Christmas ornament or making, cards for people that are in nursing homes, whatever they do to reach out to the community makes the community remember that they're helping them and they're helping. That's what builds support. That's what builds recognition. So in COVID, when we possibly could be facing another supply chain issue, why aren't we looking at ways to help people that might not have the farm in order to provide some produce for themselves? So those are just some of the ideas I've thought about.
Okay, that's fantastic. Let me just ask you finally, as we wrap up here, you're a Republican. You're running in a race that is partisan in terms of Democrat and Republican, but it appears that a lot of these types of races, county commissioner and some of the other county races, sometimes appear to be more attuned to a local election, where in many of our local communities, it's a nonpartisan election. Do you agree with that?
It's absolutely a nonpartisan election. This is the only thing partisan about it, is that Republicans don't usually get elected, and it's been held by Democratic incumbents, and as a result of that, we've had 350 years and only 24 with a female on the board. And that's not to say that a female could be whatever party designation. I'm looking for diversity, and that has nothing to do with politics. The basis of what I want to do is use my perspective, use the fact that I bring a different perspective to a board and give them different ideas and long-term positions that we should be moving towards. We can't run county government and same old every single 4 years, and then there's an election and we run the same way. We have to transcend ourselves. Everybody's morphed into a technology world because we were forced into it because of a pandemic. But you know what? We had to do it. I'm doing Zoom hearings for court. I'm, in 5 places, different times of the day. We all are having to change the way business is. And if county government doesn't change the way business is, then we're not going to be able to continue to provide Bristol County in and of itself and to the community members something that we have, and we have a lot to give back. We have space and we have that Aggie school. We haven't even touched into my solar discussion, but that'll be for another time. But I'm really, really excited, and I do think that it's important that people know that, I am for fiscal responsibility. I am for innovative ideas. I am open to listen to anybody. I have no problem with somebody telling me I'm in the wrong direction or I'm not seeing something, because I can take criticism, because when you've been a divorce lawyer for 30 years, if you can't take criticism, you can't go anywhere. I have the skill set. I am a conciliator. I'm a negotiator. I know how to bring people to the table, and I know how to make things happen. And if I look on my record in Westport, I think that I've done a good job there, and I know I will at Bristol County. So I do ask people on November 3rd, I hope that you see this as an opportunity to crack through another ceiling, to stop 350 years of male domination on this county commission and bring in a new perspective, and somebody that I do have twin 14-year-old boys. So it's not that I have anything against boys. I want them to do just as well and has many opportunities, as the girls do. And I just
Yeah.
think that I lived in a world and grew up in a world with a glass ceiling, and I broke through it, and I want the same for people in Bristol County. So I ask you for your vote, because I promise you it won't be same old, same old. And if you don't know about the Bristol County Commissioners now, I promise you if elected, you will. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Nancy Stanton-Cross, I appreciate it, running for county commissioner. Thank you. All the best, and good luck in the election.
Thank you very much, Keith. Take care.
All righty. And we want to thank you for joining us today here on FRC Media. Have a great day, and make sure to vote on November 3rd.